career is a very small part of life. There is more to life. It is all encompassing. Right from what are we going to eat for breakfast to the biggest and darkest secrets of this universe and those vast mysteries and vastness, infinity of that universe, everything is on card. I'll enjoy life as it comes. A person who is visually impaired, who has read international relations, understands international relations theories, understands the international relations concepts, understands how the foreign policy, bilateral, multilateral functions, how the multilateral institutions function, and what is their mandate, what is their agenda, how are they doing it, how are we believing, what is the ground and pretext of our belief that that person cannot really function as a diplomat. And this is where now I want to make an appeal to all those who have certain sensitivities in this matter, to all those who are stakeholders. I want to appeal to their good sense, to their common sense, to their good sensibilities, that please let us, please convey my request for this service to be open. And I would want to be somebody who claims this service, because I think I've been trained in this and I can really do a great job in that. अपने हृदय का सत्य अपने आप हमको खोजना, अपने नयन का नीर अपने आप हमको पोंछना, अंबर सुख देगा नहीं धरती पसीजी है कहीं, जिससे हृदय को ध्येय मिले है संदेश जीवन का वही, सच हम नहीं सच तुम नहीं सच है मगर संघर्ष ही. Everybody has to find their own way, their own mojo, their own path themselves.
So every year when UPSC results are declared, what stories do you really notice on social media and media? These are stories which are success stories. These are stories which will give you toppers tips. They will tell you what to study, what not to study, where to go to study, whether to do self-study or not, and so many things. Creates dreams in the eyes of aspirants of cracking civil services. Yes, these stories are going to continue not just for this month, but whenever you open your social media account or you open any search engine, you will find these stories flashing. But then there are certain stories which will definitely take you to some thought process, some points to ponder. And one such story which is going to be discussed today is with the person himself who has qualified civil services not one, twice, thrice, but 4 times. And he comes from a background which is really something which we should learn from. His family, his parents are peasants, and he is the first generation child from his family to go to a school and study. But that's not all. He is a visually impaired candidate, or now, as I say, officer, and his story is really not only inspiring, but at the same time, it leaves a lot of questions in our minds. I'm talking about Satender Singh. Hello, sir. Welcome to the Indian Express studio.
Thank you.
After that brief introduction of yours, which definitely there is so much to say about it, I would also like to mention that he was in academics before this. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you were an assistant professor in Delhi University College, and you were teaching political science. And after that, selection, or year after year, the selection started. And today you are here again. You got rank 318 in 2024-2025. Another important thing to mention that you are already serving as commissioner in Mahe Municipality. And therefore, this is again a very interesting story to share. But there are some very important aspects to it. Let us start with the struggles which you have seen as a child while you were growing up, and then slowly we'll come to the journey, the current journey. So if you can begin with a few words on it.
All right, so there's going to be a long answer for this question. When it comes to struggle, now that I'm somebody who's better than before in terms of learning and education, I can interlink my struggles with the struggles of so many other deprived and marginalized categories. So right in childhood, I had got a wrong injection, which damaged my optical nerves, and that made me blind in birth, blind at the age of 1.5 years. And Ever since then, there have been various struggles, various kinds, myriad kinds of struggles. First, which I called is a struggle of invisibilization, as in the person who is from certain marginalized section is invisibilized. In my case, I recollect whenever some important guest will come at home, or there will be some important function, some feast, or some other hearty occasion, I'll just be asked to keep put behind closed doors. I would not be allowed to go out and mingle with people. That comes with, like, from a lot of thought process. One of them is the cultural thinking that person who is carrying a disability, the person who is born in a lower caste, quote unquote, the person who is a tribal, the person who is, like, suppose woman also, they have certain past life karma, and the Almighty is punishing them for this, and therefore they are not a good sight in public space. So that was one, and it was quite vivid and quite explicit that I've been facing it. Now it has reduced a bit, and there are reasons to it, but it has been there right till the time I was a grown-up adult. People in the public buses, in the public transport, in the public spaces would discourage my presence with through some or the other exclamations, words, and statements. So that's the first kind of struggle. The second struggle, which came from lack of understanding, as I was the first, like I said, my parents could never got to go to a school. So I was the first generation who was educated. So the second struggle in itself is the inability to educate myself. And I recollect those local headmasters who would come to recruit the children, and they would want to recruit everybody. They would want everybody to be the part of the system, of the education system, get enrolled in the primary schools. But as soon as they would see me, they would just find me too rejectable to be in a school. And they wouldn't entertain even the thought of having me in the school. So whenever I would get an opportunity, I'll sneak out into the schools. And that will piss them off, and they will chase me like a non-human. When I talk about invisibilization, that is one of the aspects. You believe that the people with disabilities or certain castes or certain classes are not even human worth consideration. There is no equal moral worth to that. The third kind of struggle, if I have to talk about now that I can categorize them, is certain kind of ableism. So our society is an intensely ableist society. There are a lot of prejudices, a lot of predilections, a lot of stereotypes going around. And it was there. Some people will believe that I have certain magical powers because of the simple reason, me being blind. Some people will think that I must be really good at music. Some people would think that maybe I should make a career in doing Ramayana part or whatever. So these were the kind of rural prejudices. But when I came to the urban, highly sophisticated elite societies, I found a very different kind of prejudices. If you recollect, there was a controversy last year in which the reservation for PWBD was being questioned because somebody apparently managed to forge a certificate and get passed through UPSC selection process. And very successful bureaucrats, the people who are in the highest of position in this country, started questioning the reservation provisions for the people with disabilities. And their words were that, these people cannot conduct long hearing for a long time. These people cannot speak for a long time. These people cannot go out in the public space and conduct public hearings, which is absolutely bizarre. And this actually exhibits the kind of mythical and absolutely ignorant belief system we have in our country going on in the highest of echelons. So I was very disturbed. And me clearing this exam this time around, one of the motivation was that somehow I need to prove myself. If you can, they call it the toughest exam. I have cleared it 4 times. But still, if they keep believing that I'm incapable of functioning, and they have been the people with disabilities who have been district magistrates, who have been commissioners, who have actually functioned so effectively, far better than their able-bodied counterparts. But still, if the system keeps believing, then that speaks about the power of stereotypes and power of prejudices, power of myths, for how long they can travel, for how resilient they can be. And the next kind of struggle that I went to, and still to this extent I would be going, but that now may have become more implicit, which is humiliation. Humiliation is an essential tool in the hands of privileged to silence the underprivileged. So it could be in the case of Dalits, wherein they are called the names associated with their caste. It could be in the name of women, where they refer the working women, they assassinate their character. It could be for the people with disabilities, wherein they call them names with their disability and they just try to relegate them to the periphery and silence them. So yeah, growing up, these were the struggles, and some of them have got implicit, some of them have died down, some of them still persist.
Yeah, so we'll come to that, and we'll talk about these incidents that you have mentioned in this answer in a little detail. But what comes to my mind immediately is that even after becoming civil servant, do you think that these kind of things which are occurring in society, which you are facing, you've been able to change that, or do they exist still in one or the other form, in your personal experience?
Yeah, so these are the kind of battles which cannot be won once and for all. Like for somebody going through some other struggle, for example, poverty, and getting over it and becoming successful, earning money and then getting rid of it. This is the struggle that you get over in like once and for all. But the kind of struggle I am living is the kind of struggle where every day, every hour, every minute I have to prove myself. And somehow I have to establish my credentials every living minute. And that is why I would say that struggle has not gone away. These things have not gone away, but now I have more wherewithal, more resources, capabilities, and capital to deal with them effectively, and I have wider reach, so wider level of awareness can be created. I think awareness is one of the solutions, but not the long-lasting one. Long-lasting solution definitely would be what I call equalization of capabilities, wherein everybody has whatever it takes available at their disposal, whatever it takes to realize their capability and to realize their ultimate talent.
So, while listening to all the story, it just comes to my mind that what was that time when you thought that, you entering civil services is one of the ways in which you can solve some problems?
Yeah, so to be honest, civil services was not my first choice. I always wanted to be in academics. I really loved ideas, new ideas, critical.
That's why you were teaching in the
Yeah, and that is what I loved doing. But, there are two reasons to it. One, there was a lot of ad hocism and a lot of impermanence and temporariness prevailing in the academic field at that time. Even now it is there. To some extent they have made certain recruitments, but the larger problem has not gone away. And that kind of disillusioned me with the academic career, and I thought of UPSC. This was one reason. The other and more profound reason was that, for the people who are coming from destitute backgrounds, the people who are coming from marginalized backgrounds, UPSC probably is the single most tool in their hands to get to the apex and then prove their credentials and claim their judicious space, claim the equality, claim their position in the society, the respectability, the dignity, the prestige it brings. So that was the second reason, which was not available to an academic in this country.
So now suppose when you go back to your hometown where you have seen all those prejudices which you've gone through, your family has gone through, do you see that you have been a role model for a lot of people, that there are changes which are coming in your place?
It appears like that. Like when we see the picture, somebody who's succeeded will be a role model, but the picture is really complicated. So first they dislike you, they hate you, they find you disgusting, then you succeed, and then they don't want to believe it. They don't believe for a long time, they live in denial. But once the reality is way too apparent, like sunlight in the face, they do believe it, but they have grudging acceptance, but slowly they accept. So that's the process going on. There may be people who may be finding me as a role model, and there may be people who may still be living in denial. There may be people who will still find it very hard. So it's like, somebody invented the steam engine, the boat, for the boat. And some people, the onlookers, the passers-by who were watching, they first were saying it will not start. The engine will not start. The engine will not start. They were super skeptics. The engine started, it roared, and it moved. And the same people started saying it will not stop. Now it will not stop. So that's the kind of thing. People, prejudices are very long living. They don't die like that. You don't become a role model overnight. It takes a lot of journey, a lot of arduous persistence, and a lot of resilience, lot of hard work on your part.
So I'll just remind our viewers about your educational background, because the next question is related to that. You studied in a special school for blind boys in Kingsway Camp, New Delhi, after which you studied in two of the best educational institutions in our country, graduation in history and political science from St. Stephen's College, masters in politics with specialization in international relations, and MPhil from JNU on the topic of emotions in international politics. And then you taught at Sri Aurobindo College as an assistant professor of political science. Now, after studying, in at least two best institutions of the country, can you tell our viewers what changes those institutions brought in your life? And on the other hand, also, what are the challenges in these educational institutions which visually impaired candidates have to face?
Yeah, so before addressing this, I just want to tell you, there is a lot of voicing for the students to study in the mother tongue. And NEP talks about it, our people are talking about it. We're trying to allocate more resources. But to this extent, to this day, English is the symbol of certain cultural capital, certain kind of power in this education system. The people who are studying in Hindi medium are mostly from the pauperized backgrounds. People are studying in mother tongue in Hindi medium not because they want to, but because they have to. They're poor enough not to be able to afford a convent school. A similar thing happened to me. I was educated in Government Senior Secondary School for Blind Boys, Kingsway Camp. That was a Hindi medium student, Hindi medium school. And till I passed my 12th, I barely spoke English. And that was a luxury to me. That will appeal to me a lot. So the first change, you were asking about change, the first change that we have to really make, if there has to be a mother tongue education, or if you really believe that in mother tongue we can conceptualize better, it has to be for everybody. It has to start with those who are privileged, with those who cannot speak Hindi with proper diction because their tongues are English twisted. So it doesn't have to start with those who are rickshaw pullers. They're speaking Hindi anyways. Now the question is, who will bell the cat? Who will start it? And that's a critical question that we need to address. As a bureaucrat also, I would like to put up this suggestion that, it needs to start for everybody. It just cannot be for those who are already underprivileged. This then will become yet another medium through which they get further marginalized. Now, in St. Stephen's College, of course, I hold that college with great reverence and regard. That college has made me a lot what I am today. When I walked into that institution, I was absolutely low on confidence. I was very introvert. I would find it very difficult to interact with the English medium, English speaking students and the elite students of that college. And it would be a dream come true. So for a long time, I remained introvert. I remained underconfident. But gradually, the college just embraced me and groomed me into English. And I put in some efforts of my own. I learned English. I taught myself English. And I became a part of that institution. By the time it came for me to get through the graduation, I was confident enough to apply for London School of Economics, which I did, but we didn't have sufficient money at that time to fund my education. Now, that is something I learned from St. Stephen's College. Confidence, the ability to have faith in yourself, the ability to really realize your potential and believe that, someday you can become the people you're really idolizing. So, and I'm really thankful to that institution. When I came to JNU, it was a very different universe altogether. It was like the perfect example of how education should be. Education should be a system where somebody from extremely privileged background can really sit and have a coffee on a dhaba with somebody who's from an absolutely pauperized background. Somebody from the most advanced regions in this country can sit with the most backward student without an iota of discrimination between them. Somebody who can just sit and learn from each other and can have an interactive cross-disciplinary dialogue, and where the knowledge is really interacting with the practice and people are trying to constantly experiment, question and explore new realities, new universes and new ideas. That is how the university should be. And one thing that I learned, it's very important to invest in the public universities and public education if we really want to realize the demographic dividend. Private universities will have their own private profit maximizing agenda, and they will never do justice to the education system in this country. So JNU for me is the perfect example, shining example of public education, and it should be there should be more JNUs in this country.
But when it comes to, say, facilities for candidates, for PWD candidates or visually impaired candidates, do you think these universities and infrastructure in totality is kind of favorable for the?
Well, definitely not. Definitely not. In St. Stephen's College, they tried to make things accessible, and to a considerable extent they succeeded. One, because it was a smaller campus, and two, there was an element of empathy and solidarity, compassion in that institution. In JNU, because of its geographical terrain, there were a lot of difficulties for people with disabilities, and there were certain perceptual and attitudinal inaccessibilities also. It's a work in progress. I would still appreciate the efforts that have been put in, especially in the libraries, especially in trying and creating the ramps in the public spaces. They're doing some work, but a lot needs to be done yet.
Now, moving a little forward, let us come to your preparation period, okay? And I accept that there have been hurdles in your path. At the same time, you made the best of, you converted those obstacles into opportunities while you were studying in universities and teaching also. But when it comes to preparation, how difficult it is for, what are the challenges? Are they similar to what you were having in the college times, or there were certain more challenges in the preparation journey?
Well, thankfully, as a person with visual disability, what I really admire these days is that the technology is changing very fast. Yeah. So just 10 years ago, or let's say 15 years ago, we did not have the books. What we would do, we would have those big scanners, and we would just page by page, one page takes 1 minute, will take a lot of time to scan that book. And then by using our screen reading softwares in our mobiles and laptops, we could read those books.
It's a long process.
Yeah, it's a very long process. And before that, the process was even more cumbersome. There were CDs, and you had a CD driver or DVD driver, and you had those books recorded by somebody, a reader, recorded into those CDs and cassettes. And before that, there were tape recorded cassettes. Before that, I'm not sure, maybe there were those ancient, old classy models, gramophone sort of things. And then there was Braille. Now, to this day, the technology is extremely evolved. Now I'm using AI. I'm using a device which can even read handwriting. I am I'm using I have artificial intelligence apps in my phone which can not only describe the surroundings and everything, whatever lies where and on what angle and everything, but also the person, the full description. So everything is just available on your fingertips, a full description of this universe.
So AI is an advantage.
Absolute advantage. So, and now you just don't have to scan a book. You just keep the book and point the camera to it and the book will be read out to you. So these are the kind of advancements. Of course, now there is certain level of symmetry in terms of preparing, and that's how you see the people in visual disability are scoring very high. Their cutoff this time, their cutoff is way higher than EWS or OBCs or other categories. So, and that is why, because the people are really smart and they're using those smart technologies and excelling. So, that's why I would again want to point out to those skeptics that, people with disabilities, look at their cutoff, look at what they are achieving. You would not believe, and you would no more than have those prejudices that these people are actually surviving on affirmative action and they are not functionally capable. That was a very disturbing view. So yeah, technology has helped, and there is some level of symmetry, but a lot is still need to be done, because you can read through listening, but reading through eyes is a very different experience. I'm sure the retention will be affected. If you're reading through listening through your ears, maybe you will remember lesser than what you would remember by seeing through eyes.
So, regarding the service allotment to various candidates, can you also talk about services, say, for example, which are not preferred to be given to visually impaired candidates? Are there certain services like that, or is it we see that there's a uniformity all over?
Yeah, so there is something called Indian Foreign Service in this country, wherein you select people who execute the foreign policy. Later on, they help formulating foreign policy. They deal with different regions and different sectors of foreign policy. And that service is not open to the visually impaired people. That service has not been identified as a service for visually impaired people. They did identify it in 2015, 14-15, if I remember correctly, but then it was later discontinued. The people who identify the service still keep believing that the person with visual disability cannot function as a diplomat, which to my mind is yet another element of the biases, of the prejudices, because visually impaired people as district magistrates, like I earlier said, on the other posts, they have functioned phenomenally well, and they have accomplished the task of managing a complicated district so efficiently. It really belies the logic and really defies the logic as to how we believe that a person in such capacity with such functional efficiency cannot really be a diplomat and talk about the interests of this country and can put the feelings and aesthetics and ethos and the culture of this country across to the table to the other dignitaries from other countries. This really is beyond my comprehension as to how we are still believing that a person who is visually impaired, who has read international relations, understands international relations theories, understands the international relations concepts, understands how the foreign policy, bilateral, multilateral functions, how the multilateral institutions function, and what is their mandate, what is their agenda, how are they doing it, how are we believing, what is the ground and pretext of our belief that that person cannot really function as a diplomat. And this is where now I want to make an appeal to all those who have certain sensitivities in this matter, to all those who are stakeholders. I want to appeal to their good sense, to their common sense, to their good sensibilities, that please let us, please convey my request for this service to be open. And I would want to be somebody who claims this service, because I think I've been trained in this and I can really do a great job in there.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. In IAS, we have people with visual impairment who are, serving as an IAS officer. IPS, we do not have. In other services, there can be. In Indian Foreign Services, back in 2015, there was somebody who was who was given this post of Indian Foreign Services, and from then to now, there is nobody there.
They have not taken the visually impaired people.
So is it because they have not qualified to that position, or on the basis of their rank or their preference, or
No.
is it something else?
It is because they have refused to identify Indian Foreign Service as a service in which a person with visual disability can function. IPS, it makes certain logical sense. Although now there are people who are claiming that a visually impaired person can also function in police. Railway Protection Force, again, their logic is that functional capability, because you have to do a lot of police work which you may not be functionally fit for. But I really don't understand what's wrong with Indian Foreign Service. One of the reasons that probably comes to mind is maybe we are too scared, or maybe too hesitant to put our diversity and the diversity of having different disabled people and our if I can call it, the ability, the inclusive ability to let a visually impaired person be in the most elite and prestigious service. Are we really scared of it? We should be proud of doing it. I think that should be the matter of pride of this country, to demonstrate their inclusivity and sensitivity and their accessible policies at the highest assurance of the services.
Now, there have been a lot of toppers talk in the market, making rounds, people coming and toppers suggesting kya padhna chahiye, kya nahi padhna chahiye. What do you think about all these social media kind of things for toppers, and then people start taking them as role models? What do you have to say for them?
They can take them as role models. Everybody can have their role models, but they have to understand one thing: they are not their role models. Like, they are them. So suppose X is still X. So what has worked for Y may not work for X. What the situation, the placement of Y will not be that of X. Everybody has to find their own way. अपने हृदय का सत्य अपने आप हमको खोजना, अपने नयन का नीर अपने आप हमको पोंछना, अंबर सुख देगा नहीं, धरती पसीजी है कहीं, जिससे हृदय को ध्येय मिले, है संदेश जीवन का वही. सच हम नहीं, सच तुम नहीं, सच है मगर संघर्षी. Everybody has to find their own way, their own mojo, their own path themselves. They have, rather than looking outward, they should look inward and find out who they are, what they want to do, and if they really want to do. There's no dearth of advice as to what material you should read and you shouldn't read. Read any material. There are like 100 kinds of material. Read one material. Read it multiple times. Read it multiple times.
So, we've seen that you've cleared civil services for 4 times. You had various challenges in life. You had a capability to convert O of obstacles into O of opportunities. What next, Satendra? What is next in your list?
Yeah, so like I said, I think immediate struggle is going to be open up that space in Indian Foreign Service. I really find it disturbing that we are still believing that the technology has advanced so ahead. There is a lot of enabling conditions now, but we are still believing that covenant post cannot be open for a visually impaired person. My first priority will be to do something about it, to get it opened up, and to make sure that the inclusion, the accessibility, the accommodation, everything happens at that level as well. It just does not remain a buzzword, it becomes a reality of this country. Like I've said earlier, I appeal to everybody to please help me in this, to support me in this, and we really need to prove our abilities, and prove the fact that a visually impaired person can be an equally efficient diplomat, if not more. So that is first. And second, life goes on. UPSC is one, but of the many dimensions of life, there are so many other things that I want to do, and I'm on it. The career will go on, the service will go on, whatever service I'm going to be allocated. I'm not sure, yes, that service allocation is yet to come. Then I'll make a decision whether I have to remain as municipal commissioner right now in Puducherry, or I have to go ahead and claim the service that would be allocated. Other than that, the service and career is a very small part of life. There is more to life. It is all encompassing. Right from what are we going to eat for breakfast, to the biggest and darkest secrets of this universe and those vast mysteries and vastness, infinity of that universe, everything is on card. I'll enjoy life as it comes.
That's a great message. So viewers, aspirants, all those who are watching us, we were in conversation with Satender Singh, who qualified civil services this year again. And this was not just an interview to tell you कि क्या पढ़ना है, कहाँ से पढ़ना है. I'm sorry for that. This was about a life and a message, and also struggles, and again, a lot of inspiration. This is also a time when we think on what we are doing in life in terms of career. But as Satender said, that career is only one small part of life. There is so much to it. So that's all for today, and we hope that we'll meet again with Satender ji, and we will talk more about a lot of other issues which related to civil services and more than that. Till then, I would suggest all of you to read the UPSC Essentials of the Indian Express. Also, go and watch a lot of informative videos on the YouTube channel of the Indian Express. Don't forget to read the newspaper, the Indian Express, and follow daily news. And that's all from me today. As I always say, think smart, work hard, conquer your goal. Bye-bye.